Hello world, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Little Bit Different podcast with your host, Corey Sterling. I hope that this finds you well wherever you might be in the world. I am very, very, very excited to share this week's episode with you because, and I hope that you've got your seatbelt on and you're sitting down. I've got some breaking news for you. I am a surfer. I finally done it. I'm competently able to participate in a sport that involves a surfboard, and it's been a really, really phenomenal week. And I want to share a little bit about the experience, about why this means so much to me, what the general zoom out macro picture is of this accomplishment and this recent development in my life is, and why I think it's important to share it. So when I sit down to come up with different topics for the podcast, I'm always thinking about what are some interesting things going on in my life that someone who's listening, the dear listener, and I'm so happy that you're here, might be able to apply in their own life. And what's a lesson that I'm going through, and how can I extract a lesson from something that's going on, even though whatever is taking place in my life might be something seemingly innocuous or unimportant or irrelevant, and what's the greater picture. So this week, I'm still in Preá, I'm still in my kite surfing beach town, and I've always had this dream and vision, and I've so terribly wanted to be able to kite surf with a surfboard. So up to now, I've been kite surfing for a couple of years, and I always do so with a board that's called a bi-directional board. So that's sort of like a wakeboard where you put your feet into the straps, but also there's a lot of people who kite surf with surfboards. And it's something that I've always seen people do, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, but something that I never had the confidence to do. I never believed that I'd be able to do it. And then recently this week, I just went for it, and it's happened. And the reason why I think it's worthy of sitting down and talking about it for half an hour is that really what it's about is an example of something in my life where I have rewritten a story. I've rewritten a story about myself, about who I am in my life, and I've done it through, I'm just using kite surfing with a surfboard, and I'm just gonna call it surfing from now on, but I've used surfing as an example for what it's like and how the process that I've gone through in doing it. And what my intention in recording this episode is that whoever's listening might think, oh, maybe there's some story that I have in my life that's completely bogus, and I want to rewrite that story, and I want to create a new self-image in my life, and I want to start doing something that I always thought was impossible, or that I couldn't do, or that would be too difficult to do, or that I'm not capable of doing. And I'm just going to break down a little bit of the process of what it's been like learning to surf, and obviously talk about the fun and amazing adventure that it's been and that it continues to be as I get going with it. So this podcast episode is how I learned to surf, how I learned to kite surf, and the intention is that you'll be able to apply this to your life, thinking about something that you currently can't do but that you want to do or that you've always wanted to do. Let's go! Let's start with the old story that I had, not my best one. This is not, the story that I had about surfing is not my best, but essentially the story was there was a two-part story. One is, it's too difficult to do. Hands up if you're thinking about something in your life and you're like, oh, I could never do that. It's too difficult to do. The second is that I had this irrational fear/feeling that I just couldn't do it. I'm not a surfer. I'm not able to surf. I wouldn't be able to get up on a surfboard. I wouldn't be able to balance or control myself on a surfboard. I just had all of these stories that were absolutely, completely bogus that were related to me and surfing. And obviously there has to be an origin story. And wow, this is what we're going to go back and go through this. But just basically, I have had a series of events in my life. Not pretty. Just so you know, I wish I had a highlight reel that I could just like share with everyone of how terrible and how much I suffered on my life on a surfboard. And I've been in Hawaii, I've been in Sri Lanka, I've been in Brazil. I've had so many opportunities where I've like done a surf lesson or rented a surfboard or something like that and just felt absolutely, completely incompetent. And that's because surfing, and if we're talking about just, surfing where you paddle out with your hands and then you ride waves, is very, 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 very difficult. Maybe in my life, I've caught like 2 or 3 waves. Also, I lived in Bali. Like, man, I've just been to all the surf places. And I've caught 2 or 3 waves, so I know that feeling of what it's like to catch a wave. But like, A, I never ever really enjoyed surfing. I was always just like, when's this going to be over? And B, I was terrible at it. Terrible, awful, seems like so below what the average person would be. I was just so below. And so this has happened over let's say the past 10 years that I've been living in these beautiful places, unable to surf. And then it's sort of just like the way that we have these old stories in our life is a seed is planted. Like I have a lot of awesome seeds in my life. One of the seeds I have is about financial abundance. Like I'm financially abundant. People love giving money to me. I have that seed. It's a plant. I prune it. I clean it. I water it. I take care of it. I love it. Abundance is a really, really big seed in my life. Being a deliberate creator is a very, very important seed in my life. These are just beliefs that I have that I've proven to myself time and time again. And on the contrary, and this is why I think the surfing story is so interesting, because on the contrary, I do have some beliefs that, again, they're harmless. Like, okay, cool. I have done a lot of things in my life. I'm not going to be a surfer. I'm not going to be able to get up on a surfboard. Cool, doesn't hurt anyone. But I always thought that it looked really cool, and I always wanted to love it. But I did have this belief also as it relates to surfing, where it was just like, I'm not good at it. I can't do it. It won't happen. It'll never happen for me. I won't enjoy it. And I'll never forget, I was in Sri Lanka with, at the time, my Muskoka Yoga Festival business partner, Ashley Boone. And we were in Marissa Beach, which is an awesome place, Mirissa, if anyone's going to Sri Lanka and wants to check out a cool place. So we're like, yeah, cool, let's go to Marissa Beach. Ashley loves surfing. She moved to the East Coast. She's a crazy surfer. And I'll never forget, I rented a board, always like a big, long board, which was easier for me. And I was in the water for 6 minutes. I'm just like, I'm done. I do not like this. I'm not enjoying. And she stayed out for like 5 hours and had a crazy session. But it was just there were just so many beliefs compounded over time that like the seed was planted. And then over time, I would just continually support this belief and this idea that I don't like surfing. I'm not good at surfing. I can't do it. It's too difficult. And yeah, and so that's it. It's just like what we're talking about here, and this also can be for you, is maybe you have a belief of something that you're like, whoa, this would be really kick-ass, or this would be cool, or I would love to be the person who could do this, or anything related to that. And the only thing that's stopping you is just this random belief that you have in your mind, where you're just like, oh, I've just always told myself this story about myself, about this random area of my life. And yeah, and let's call it what it is. Surfing's pretty badass. And I would go visit my friends in San Diego or any other part of the world, and I would just be like, you are so much cooler than me. I'm just not a cool person. I can't surf, but you can. And I just wanted to be cool. There has been an eventual evolution where I decided that I wanted to change this story. I wanted to change this belief in my life. And let's call it what it is. It probably, the inception of this idea probably came from some beautiful female influence. And when I was thinking back, preparing for the episode, I was like, when did this first moment happen where I was like, I really want to get into surfing or being able to kite surf on a surfboard? And obviously there's this beautiful woman named Marcella who I spoke to once in my life. But we were in Preá, this was 2 years ago, and I remember she just we were talking, I was like, oh, like, yeah, what are you doing, where are you going? obviously for kiting, not general in life. I don't think she was too interested in having a conversation with me. But she's like, oh, me and my friends we're going to go do a downwind for 20 kilometers. Do you want to come with? And I was like, yeah, definitely I want to come with. She's like, well, we're all going with surfboards. And I was just standing there like the kid when the school bus leaves without you and closes the door in your face. My jaw was just like, okay. And then probably like this is the most superficial, but it's also the truth about a reason where I was like, oh, like, if I learn to be able to surf with a surfboard, then I might be able to have experiences like that with someone like Marcella. That's 2 years ago. Obviously this, I've done a lot of work on myself since then. In terms of self-value and worth and not needing something external like that to be validated. But that still was like the first moment where I was like, okay. And then I just like watched her go in and it just looked so cool. Like kite surfing, but like whipping up on waves and turning fast and quick. And it was something at that moment, that was like the first news seed where I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do this. I really want to be able to figure this out.
Hello, world. This is Corey from A Little Bit Different Podcast. I'm going to tell you a statistic now. You're not going to believe it. Only 22% of people who listen to the Little Bit Different Podcast actually subscribe or like the channel. So right now, I'm on a mission to get 250 subscribers to the channel by the end of the year. Will you help me? I'm hoping that the answer is yes. So please, anytime you watch any of our content, hit subscribe, that whole button there, and like it and share it and keep being different and having the most fun ever.
Then over time, I was really focused on kiteboarding and kite surfing with the bidirectional board. And I would always, I'm really, really focused and I'm loving that. So I'm always trying to go faster. I'm trying to jump higher. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to go farther. That's who I am. I'm always trying to improve at the things that I'm doing. And this year when I came to Preá, I just said like, okay, this year at some point I'm gonna get on a surfboard and I'm gonna try to learn it. And the thing with kiting is that you suffer a lot at the beginning. At least I'll only speak for myself. For me, at kiting, I always suffered. So it was always very difficult and I failed and everyone got it faster than me and I was worse than everyone and I was very, very slow. Like I had this, I'm sure I've told this story before, but I had this, like my first instructor was an Argentinian and he was just like, he was shocked that I was unable to get up on a kiteboard. And I remember just one time, like he screamed at me on the headset. I'm wearing this helmet and he's just like, for the love of God. But it was here in Brazil. So he said, for the love of God, G. And we laughed a lot about that. So I knew that I wanted to try surfing on a kite surfing with a surfboard. And I knew that this year it would be it. And definitely if I use the word scared, I was definitely scared to do it because I was scared to suffer again. I was scared to get into an accident. I was scared for something bad to happen. But in addition to that, I just had no confidence around my ability to be able to do it. I just had this story that surfing is hard for me. Surfing's difficult. I can't do it. And I would just like, the plant and the seed is so deeply rooted in my mind that I was stopping myself from doing it. But I also was determined in the same way where I'm like, okay, it's enough. I have to be competent enough to be able to do this. And if not, okay, I will suffer for however long that I have to suffer in order to make this happen and to finally do it. And the thing that finally tipped the scale and made it happen was me having a friend who's coming to visit shortly. He's going to live with me for 2.5 weeks and he's coming from really, really far away and he does not have kite equipment. So I was like, cool, dude, don't worry. I'm going to let you use my board. You can use my bidirectional board because he knows how to kite with a bidirectional board. And I'm going to learn how to surf. And he booked his ticket with 2 weeks in advance. He's like, bro, I'm coming in 2 weeks. I'm like, cool. I've got 2 weeks to learn to kite surf on a surfboard. I've got 2 weeks to learn how to surf. And it was like, if it wasn't for him, I probably never would have confronted the issue. And that's why I think sometimes these this is obviously a very, very favorable, comfortable condition that I'm confronting, that my friend is coming to stay with me and I love him and he's my brother. But also it's like, I felt good helping him and I was like, cool, I can step up. This is my moment. I'm finally ready for it. And I share this too, because I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, what's a story that I want to rewrite for myself? Maybe sometimes the decision is made for you and there's a little something pushing you in the direction where you're like, okay, now's the time to do this thing that I was afraid to do or scared to do or I thought that I couldn't do. And so keeping our ears and eyes open all the time is a great way to let that guidance take us. So now the process has begun. I've decided that I'm going to do it, and I didn't change the story immediately. It wasn't like, okay, cool, my buddy's coming to visit me, I'm going to learn how to do this, and now I can do this, and now everything. It didn't happen overnight like that. Again, the first thing was accepting that it may be difficult, it may be long, I might be awful at it, I won't be able to do it, but I accept it nonetheless. And I think that was the first thing, is just like letting yourself be really, really bad at this thing that you're trying to do. And accepting like, cool, normally when I get into the water, it's here in Preá in Brazil, in Ceará, it's a little bit of a scene. So like people are watching you when you get in. And I was just like, fuck it. I don't care if I look like the biggest idiot and I'm not able to get up and I suffer and whatever. And the reason why I didn't care is because I was doing something that was really, really important to me. And no one will ever know. Now fast forward to the end. I don't want to give away the best part just yet, but now I am able to kite surf and I'm able to, kite on a surfboard, and it's something that I can do. So now when people see me, they're not going to think twice. They're just going to be like, oh, this guy's always been able to do it. But I wasn't always able to do it, but I was okay being terrible and being awful. And I think that there's a little bit of courage that's involved in that. And again, whatever it is in your life that any change that you want to do, any new thing that you want to start, anything that you want to create, whether it's business, whether it's in, relationships, whether it's financial, whatever it is, like if you're okay just being really, really bad at the start, but at least doing it, that's the first step. The first step is just accepting like, cool, I don't need to be perfect at everything that I do. There is an element of humility involved, but I know that what I'm doing is something that's important enough to me that I'm cool really, really sucking and embarrassing myself. Like the first time, all my friends are kiting, everyone's in the scene, everyone's there, and I just like wipe out so hard, even just trying to get my feet on the board, on the kite. And I'm just like, okay, here we go. But cool, whatever. It's also like I have enough confidence that I can deal with that. And it's also harmless because people care about themselves. They're not really looking at you. They're looking at you in comparison to themselves. Like everyone's thinking about themselves all the time. Never ever forget that. So that's another piece that helps. And so I think that it's really, really important to talk about this piece of like, okay, cool, I'm doing something new and I accept that I'm going to be terrible at it and it's going to be awful and all of that sort of stuff. The next thing that I want to mention that I think is really, really important is what makes that first part of doing something difficult and accepting that you're going to be terrible at it. What makes it a lot easier is if the new thing that you're doing or creating or choosing or whatever it is something that really, really resonates with you and inspires you and that you think is really, really worthwhile. Because if it does, then passing through all of those terrible moments and looking stupid and being really bad and suffering, all of you're going to be able to tolerate all of that because where you're going it's worth it. It's worth it. Where you are going in your life, what you're creating by becoming this new person who's able to do this new thing is going to be so worthwhile and you're going to be so stoked and happy about it. And it's, something that you always wanted, that you will tolerate and actually enjoy the process of getting there. And so I just want to say that as I'm sharing all of this in terms of talking about taking an old story that doesn't serve you or a belief that you used to have about something that you're not able to do or incapable of doing, and you're making that transformation towards what it is that you do want to do, fucking choose something epic. Choose something that lights you up. Choose something that you always wanted to do. We've got one life. You have one opportunity to do the things that you want to do. I can only speak for myself. Right now, I'm at a point in my life. Thank God I'm healthy. I'm flexible. I'm young. I'm relatively young. I guess 40, 40 is the new 30 or what. I don't even know what the fuck any of that means, but I I still feel young. I still feel like I'm 25, 26. So this is the time to do it. And so whatever it is that you're choosing to do, make sure it's something that lights you up, where you're like, I always wanted to know what this feels like. And me, Corey, I always wanted to know what it felt like to be able to kite surf on a surfboard. And when I sucked and I was drinking water, like drinking water is a kite expression because you're just falling off and getting dragged by the kite and all of that. I was like drinking water, getting destroyed, the kite's crashing, everything terrible is happening, but I get back up because this is worthwhile. So this is just a reminder for whatever it is that you want to do or you want to create in your life, do it. Because you've one chance to make it happen, one chance being this life. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Do the thing and do something that's fucking epic for you and something that you love. Here we are with what I believe to be the most important part of this whole story and everything that I'm sharing. And it's the simplest piece, but I also think that it's the most important piece. And that is, there will come a moment, there's an apex where you can talk about it, you can have the beliefs, you can do blah, 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 all of the things, and that's just going to be at the moment where you actually have to do it. And the hardest part in the entire process for me was just getting in the water that first time. And I'll never forget that I'll never forget because this is, I don't know if you can tell, but this means something to me. Being able to kite surf on a kiteboard means something to me. To probably most people in the world who have never kite surfed or aren't interested, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. But to me, this was a challenge. I said that this year, this season, I was going to do it. And the moment came where I'm like, I'm holding the board, I'm getting ready to go in. And I spoke with, I've got a couple of friends who are instructors. And I was like, cool, like they'll be able to help me. And I asked my friend Estenio and I asked my friend Itamar, and I was like, boys, how do I do this? And they both said the same thing. They're like, just go. Just go. Just get in the water, pick up the board. Just go with it. And I was like, okay, cool. I have no idea. And it was so amazing because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing or how I'm doing or what I'm supposed to be doing. I have no idea about any of that stuff, but I'm just going to get in the water and do what makes sense to me and try to figure this out. And obviously at the start, it was a complete train wreck. But there was a moment that I will never forget for the rest of my life. There was a moment that when I started, I was like, I actually got up on the board. And I was up on the board and I was on the board for maybe like 4 seconds. But I was just, what I screamed out loud was like, holy fuck, it is happening. And it was the first glimpse of me being able to do it. And then obviously I wiped out, I fell, I lost the board's flying around, I'm going this way, I'm going that way, the wind's taking me, there's other kiters. I'm like, trying not to have my lines crossed with someone. All the things that could happen are happening. But I tasted it for that one particular moment. And then I just got back up. And then I fell, and then I just got back up. And then I fell, and I just got back up. And I was going in the wrong direction, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't do anything, like nothing's happening for me. But I just kept doing it, and slowly, each step, I was like, oh, okay, this is my body positioning, or this is how, much pressure should be on my front foot versus my back foot. And all that happened was I learned to do it by doing it. I learned to do it by doing it. And I share that because there is no replication for that. You cannot copy the experience of doing something. If you have a business idea, you just have to do it. Just cool. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know who's going to pay me. I don't know what the system's going to look like. I don't know any of that stuff, but I'm just going to do it. And then once you start doing it, you fall, you get back up, you fall, you get back up, you fall, you get back up, you fall, you get back up. Like our life is a series of falling and getting back up. That's all that's happening all the time. We're on the board a bit. You're like, holy smokes, I'm here. And then you fall and you crash and then you have to get back up. And I think that it would just be a complete illusion to think that either in life or in something new that you're starting, that you're just going to get up and you're going to stay up the whole time and it's going to be carving waves and turning and just being epic the whole time. And what is really awesome for me in this experience was like, I failed miserably. My friend Arturo was driving the car, and he had to go to the airport. So normally I'll have a driver, I'll pay a friend to, drive my car and support me. But this Arturo's like, hey man, I got you, but we have to leave at this time. So now there's time pressure. And then he was, calling me, and all the things are happening. It was sort of a disaster, but it was also perfect. And I was, able to go a little bit of a distance. The next day I was like, whatever I'm going here. I'm going to Preá. Preá's a 12-kilometer downwind. I'm like, I'm going to Preá tomorrow. I'm doing this. Got up, fell, got up, fell, got up, fell, found a way to do it, improved. The next day I was like, hey, I'm going a little bit further. Now I'm going to go to Géry. I'm going to do a 20-kilometer downwind. Did it. The next day, 30-kilometer downwind. Did it. Next day, 35-kilometer downwind. And because of all of that, now I am a surfer. Yeah, I'm calling myself a surfer. Cool. Not surfing with waves. That goes to the real surfers, but I am a kite surfer with a surfboard. And so now I can do it, and it's a really big joke between, and I shared this with one friend, but also my girlfriend was visiting at the time. And now the whole joke is now I'm a surfer. I just call myself a surfer. And I've realized that this joke does not work well with the people who are actually proper surfers and kite surfers, where I would just now I'll just be chilling with the board, or my arm around the board. I'll be like, hey, what's up? Yeah, bro. Yeah, I got it. And I'll just be like that, but I don't take myself seriously at all. But I will just say that I am really, really proud of myself, and I'm loving it. And now it's I will only go with a surfboard. Now I'm dedicated, I'm committed. I want to learn all the things. I want to do all the things that I could do with the other board, with a kite, on a surfboard. And it's just I just rewrote it. And there was a moment. There have been so many moments, but there was a moment yesterday where I was with my two buddies. We were kite surfing. They're both on surfboards. I'm on a surfboard. It's the most beautiful sunset. And I'm just looking at my feet, and I'm turning into a wave and pseudo carving. And I'm like, holy smokes, this is who I am now. And it was always there. I've always been that person. So I just want to close by saying that you are that person that you want to be. That thing that you want to do, you can do. It's already there. There's just a little bit of a process of going through where you have to realize that you've created this fake belief that's not true, or a limiting belief in your life about something. You have to be willing to really, really suck at this new thing that you're going to do at the start, and just accept that it's going to take time and it's going to be difficult, but ultimately you'll get there. When you're sucking, the thing that's going to keep inspiring you is that whatever you're doing is awesome and epic for you. And then lastly, and most importantly, you just have to do it. You can't replace doing it. You just go in the water and you do it, and you're going to learn from the experience of doing it. And then ultimately you're doing it, and now you just get to practice and get good at it. And at the end of the day, this only benefits me, this specific example, but I hope the process of sharing what I've gone through and what I've learned from it is helpful to anyone, because everyone, this is the last thing I'm going to say for this episode. And you have to trust me. Firstly, trust that I love you and that I want you to have everything that you want in your life. If I, Corey Scott Dankner Sterling, can get up on a surfboard and kite surf with a surfboard, you can do anything that you want in your life. If someone who is as bad as me and as terrible, incompetent, incapable can do that, you can fucking do anything, and I want you to have it. So whatever you do, stay different, sending all of my love, and have the most fun.